minus 9 minutes. Minus 8 minutes. Minus 7 minutes. Minus 6 minutes. Minus 5 minutes. minus 3 minutes. T minus 2 minutes. T minus 1 minute. Stand by.
How about that?
Yo, we're live. Welcome, everybody. It's the RP Show. Giddy up. Good morning to those in the west. Good afternoon to those in the east. And wherever you are, the ships at sea, the farmers in the field, thanks for joining us today. It's Canada's favorite daytime sports talk show. We let 32 U.S. states peer in here on the Game Plus television network, streaming and in podcast form as well on all major podcast platforms. Let's bring in the Moose. I am in Western Canada, as you may be able to see by my jacket. Why am I wearing Flames gear? Because it's what I grabbed this morning. The Moose is in Toronto, and we're ready to rock and roll coming up in hour two. Speaking of rock and roll, we got our rock chick, Sweet Annie O.D., going to join us from the Cherry Bomb Hockey Podcast, but she does a lot of coverage of the Dodgers and the Angels. She's down there in Southern California. We're looking forward to the chat. Moose, what's happening with you, my guy?
Yeah, it's going to be good. She's obviously all over the Stanley Cup final, and it's good to be on today. It's good to be on today. We knew the cup was in the building last night. Didn't think it would get handed out last night, but it did, and it's always special when that day comes.
Look at that. Moose is like a bucking horse raring to get out of the stall. He can't wait to start. Let's go. Quick 6 show topics. We open with the big story, and it's the Stanley Cup final. The party is on in Florida, and let me tell you, is it ever. The Panthers repeated as Stanley Cup champions by beating the Edmonton Oilers 5-1 last night in Game 6, becoming the NHL's first back-to-back winner since Tampa Bay in 2020 and 21. Another Florida team, in case you didn't know. Florida forward Sam Bennett was named Conn Smythe Trophy winner as MVP. Oilers star Connor McDavid's wait for a championship continues as Canada's Cup drought stretches to 32 years since Montreal's win back in 1993. Darren, I was disappointed from a fan perspective of the game. Very happy that I picked the Panthers in 6. You've noticed my victory lap is still going around. Panthers won it in 6. I said they'd win it in 6. It's Serena and I argue about this because she says you're not attached to any team. How can you not be a fan of any team? It makes me very non-biased, and my picks are like pretty much airtight usually, man. And I had this one, and when I say the party is on, I think the Panthers went to sleep. I'm not totally sure. I mean, I'm up here in Canada. Cover the most of the season down there in Florida, but they were up first thing this morning. They opened the Elbow Room. That's their home bar in Fort Lauderdale. It's right on the beach. They opened it early for the Panthers to bring it in. They're there now having a party, drinking out of it. All the fans are there. It's a really special thing. So we're going to spend this whole opening segment on that and maybe a little of the next segment. We have a lot of CFL to get to because summer is here now. But how did you feel about the way the game went down last night?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine those guys are still up. I was out last night. I was not at the Elbow Room. You can tell in my voice. It was a late night. But no, it was, it wasn't a great game. The last 2 games weren't that great. They just weren't. After this series was so great through 4 games, and then it just kind of faded into the night. But, that's a credit to the Panthers, how great they were. And they just were relentless, man. Relentless defensively on the forecheck. We were watching that third period last night, and I was walking around talking to some different people, and I said, isn't this the most, isn't it amazing when you're going down a path, whether you're doing a job, you're playing a game, you're taking a trip, and you've been there before, right? There's no nerves. The Panthers just kept the forecheck at 100. They kept pressing. They just did everything they needed to do. They weren't nervous. They weren't just playing with a hand grenade trying to hold on to a lead, which was 2 goals and then 3 goals and then 4. They played with confidence like they've been there before, and the Oilers didn't really have an answer.
Yeah, and great analysis. I will sprinkle in a few viewer comments here. Ron in Calgary writes in and says, never going to win the cup with Skinner. LOL. Some of us just know. I'm not going to respond to troll back. Ron in Calgary trolling the Oilers and Stuart Skinner is all you need to know. John in Edmonton writes in and says, Rod, Canadians are downright angry at Gary Bettman this morning because it's been 32 years. And again, an American team won the Stanley Cup. He sure hates Canada. Canadians are mad at a lot of things, John, and I think you are too. And this is just the latest. If you want to blame Gary Bettman, go ahead. Then you don't have to put the focus where it belongs on your own team. And you said the Panthers had been there before. They lost a Stanley Cup final 2 years ago. They won a Stanley Cup final last year. Here's the one thing, Darren, the Edmonton Oilers have been there before too. So I think because we are on Canadian television, for the Panthers fans that have tuned in today, and there's a lot, we'll be going live at 3:30 Eastern on YouTube with the Cats and Bolts podcast. Here in Canada, it's a bit of a morning time for the Oilers. Very quickly last night, people were writing me on Twitter saying, is the Oilers window closed? No, not at all. Not at all. But they got to look at how they do things. Clearly, between the pipes, I'd hate to think that the haters were right. Stuart Skinner can't score goals, but Darren, they're going to have over $30 million tied up in 2 guys here when McDavid's contract is up the next time. And the Panthers don't have one guy they don't have one skater making double-digit millions. Bobrovsky makes $10 million in goal, and he earned that. But nobody else makes that much money there. So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that'll change coming up. I mean, Brad Marchand, Aaron Ekblad, they're all due contracts. Sam Bennett, obviously. I think that'll change. But I also think the cap's going up. McDavid is going to have a new contract before long. Yeah, I mean, you got to decide how you're going to allocate your money. And I think it was Matthew Tkachuk talked about that last night in the postgame, how this is a team. You're not just relying on 1 or 2 guys. We didn't really talk about Matthew Tkachuk a lot in these playoffs, or Sam Reinhart. And Sam Reinhart scored 4 goals last night, and was the best player on the ice. That goal he scored to open the scoring was unbelievable, man. Coming off the wall, the move he made, and as he's falling down, he scores. McDavid's pass to Draisaitl that will live in Stanley Cup lore, that move to slide it over, outstanding. But that goal of Reinhart's will also be in that highlight vault forever and ever and ever. That was the goal that got him started. And it wasn't the game winner. It didn't hold up as the game winner, but it might as well have been the game-winning goal. Yeah, you're going to build your team how you're going to build your team. They have to decide how they want to allocate their dollars. And look, if they spent a whole bunch of money on a goaltender, $10 million, they would have had to take money away from other pieces that were very instrumental in getting the Oilers into the Stanley Cup final. They built their team their way and got to a Game 6 of a Stanley Cup final and Game 7 last year. Panthers did it their way. Both kind of worked. The Panthers just worked better.
Chris Knobloch has some questions to answer, and for us Saskatchewanians, he does not become the fourth Saskatchewanian to win a Stanley Cup as coach behind Dick Irvin, Jared Bednar, and Mike Babcock. And I told you I would have started Stuart Skinner in Game 5. John Cooper would have started Stuart Skinner in Game 5. He's your guy, and you didn't. So there's a lot of questions for Chris Knobloch to answer. I hate saying it, but that's what we do here. It's real talk. Like we're Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg of sports. We'll be coming back with the Quick Six show topics, CFL, and a lot more coming up right after this.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult, because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center, July 7th. With special guest, Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit ShaniaTwain.com.
Honky Tonk legend Mark Chestnut. Celebrating 35 years of music. Joined by special guest Aaron Goodvin. June 28th at Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
Are you? Are you able to do your upper body? Oh, we're on. We're on. Okay. Good seeing you, brother. Yeah. All right. Let's bring the Moose back in. And we are at the Golden Ticket Sports Center in
Baseball
Moose Jaw,
guys?
Saskatchewan. No, young hockey player come up. Jackson.
Ah.
Just signed a contract with Anaheim, you said? Or you're finishing the contract with Anaheim? Going in the third year. There you go. How about that, Moose? Yeah, came up in the break. So I got to go chat up when we're done here early. We got athletes of all genres here at Golden Ticket Sports Center. So listen, Darren, before we move on, I know we got some great Canadian Football League stuff to get to. The sour grapes coming out of this is tough. I don't know if you read any of the comments on our Facebook page. I put up a bunch of Panthers photos and me covering them over the last season and doing stuff with the fans. Some guy wrote in and said, "Stop living in Florida and writing like you're in Saskatchewan." Bomber Boy writes in, Darren, and says, that's just at me. Bomber Boy says, where the hell is it? He goes, Paul Maurice abandoned the Jets, complaining he lost the love for the game. Yes, I'm suffering from sour grapes with that guy. It's not. Before I just chill out for a second, what are your thoughts on the sour grapes of people this morning?
It's tough. It's tough. My first thought is to be compassionate because I understand why they're feeling what they're feeling. But, look where the Jets are. I don't think Paul Maurice put them in a worse spot. They've gotten better.
No.
They're the President's Trophy winners. Like, the team has gotten better. So I think the Jets are okay. Yes, it's tough to see Paul Maurice win a Stanley Cup because you just desperately want that for your organization. I get that. But that was never going to happen. Paul Maurice said that. The buttons he pressed were not getting the result. The same buttons are getting the result in Florida. Sometimes we need to move to different places. Just happens. Yeah, I would be over that pretty quickly. But I understand why they're feeling
He was never going to coach again. Okay, well, this is funny. When he left Winnipeg, he was never going to coach again. Reg Dunlop writes in and he says, I was disappointed the Panthers didn't have Jack Nicklaus bang the drum before the game started. You're joking, Reg. You're joking. He banged it before Game 5 last year and was a buzzkill. Did you see Luongo last night banging that? Thought he was going to put a hole in the drum, Luongo. But he banged it before Game 7 last year, so naturally they're going to bring him back for Game 6 as a good luck charm. Jack Nicklaus was a buzzkill, which incidentally the Panthers lost Game 5 last year in a clinching. Jack Nicklaus, get out of here. And by the way, anytime they bring in a Miami Dolphin, they've had Mike McDaniel. They haven't had Tua, I don't think. They've had Jalen Waddle. They've had all kinds of Dolphins. Dolphins are 0-12 when banging the drum for the Panthers. No, you're not welcome back either. So anyways, there's that. But back to the Paul Maurice thing. He didn't abandon Winnipeg. It wasn't working. He was never going to coach again. So there's a lot of sour grapes. And the other thing is it's summer, for the love of God. So I do want to move on to summer sports. But just one last thing about the Oilers. Last year, I didn't think they were going to get back because I think we all think they're a top-heavy hockey team with not enough depth. But they've got a lot of things that they need to figure out. Is Stuart Skinner, the goalie, coming back? We're not going to sort that out today, but I know that we have a lot of Alberta hockey fans and a hell of a lot of Oilers fans watching right now. I didn't think they'd come back this year. So why would we think they wouldn't come back next year? They got Draisaitl signed. McDavid's impending. He's not leaving, I don't think. But they're not the perfect team. Florida kind of is. You talked about how the contracts on the Panthers were signed before the big money exploded, and yes, but Barkov is locked in at $8 million for probably 5 or 6 more years. Kachuk's locked in at $8 million for many more. They don't see him upset, do they? They got back-to-back cups. They don't seem to be as worried about the money there as Canadian teams.
I saw Matthew Tkachuk. He was hanging out after the game with the TSN guys, Drager and Duthie and those guys. And they were talking about the contracts. And I think it was Drager that asked him, about Aaron Ekblad and Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand. And, Bill Zito was with them and said, you know what, we have a plan to try and get all three to come back. And he said, how do you like that? Right? How do you like that? The idea of these guys all coming back and your GM said we can bring them all back. That's got to make you feel pretty good about trying to win a third in a row. And Matthew goes, Bill doesn't like me very much. Bill Zito doesn't like me because I'm the guy that tells Aaron Ekblad and Brad Marchand and Sam Bennett to go get the bag. Go get as much money as you can from whoever will pay it. Let them back the Brinks truck up to your front lawn. He's like, I'm player first. So he's like, I love it. I would love those guys to be back, but they got to take care of themselves, and they've all earned the raise. So it'll be interesting this summer for Florida to see if they can bring all these guys back or what happens on that front.
You obviously saw Zito after the game last night. It's funny where I think you're referencing exactly what he said. The reporter said, can you bring back Bennett, Marchand, and Ekblad? He's like, I think we can find a way to bring back all three. I don't know who the reporter was. Was it Duffy? Said, are they going to take hometown discounts? And he's like, let's just leave it at that. And by the way, sorry. Yeah, it was in the middle of the thing. The music's on here now. I just looked it up. Jackson Weeb was the player that just came up and said hi. Hockey guy from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. Played on the SJ with Nipawin, Red Deer with Edmonton and Prince George, and signed with Anaheim. Free agent deal. And he's played with the San Diego Gulls and the Tulsa Oilers. Jackson Weeb, he is a tree. He's a tree, a big tree. 6'2", 212. He came up and stuck his hand out. He said, are you in a break? I'm like, yeah. He goes, I'm Jackson Weeb. You covered me when I was in the SJ and the Dub. I've become my dad. And that's a pretty damn good thing. That's a pretty damn good thing. Which, by the way, Perry Shockey is watching today. He has his thoughts. Shocks, do you want me to relay what you said this morning about the Oilers? I don't feel like specific players. I don't think that you do. Let's just say the Oilers have a lot of questions to answer. Ripping through this, point 2 of the Quick Six show topic. The Blue Jays look to make it 2 straight over the Arizona Diamondbacks tonight in Toronto after a wild finish in last night's opener. Bo Bichette and Addison Barger hit back-to-back homers in the 9th to capture a 5-4 comeback win for the Blue Jays. Point 3, the NBA Finals will resume Thursday with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder visiting the Indiana Pacers for Game 6. The Thunder hold a 3-2 edge in the best-of-7 championship series thanks to a 40-point performance from Jalen Williams. And now to what I've been dying to talk about. CFL Week 3. Darren, if you want, okay, the poll question is, for all, as it always is on Wednesdays, what's Canada's game of the week in the Canadian Football League? Your options are Montreal at Edmonton for Thursday, Friday, Saskatchewan at Toronto, which I'm going to tell you I'm voting for because I'm planning on you and me being there at BMO Field. You can tell by the smile on my face, that makes me real happy. And another Saturday doubleheader, Ottawa at Calgary, followed by Winnipeg at BC. Running away with it, Winnipeg at BC. Running away with it, Winnipeg at BC. With the voting right now, bringing up the rear is Montreal at Edmonton. But can I give you a reason to watch the game, Darren? This has got me ready to run through a wall. Davis Alexander stands as the only quarterback in Montreal club history to start their career at 6-0 as a starter. The CFL record for best start by any team is Danny McManus at 8-0. Off the start of his career, Bo Levi Mitchell and Jeff Garcia went 7-0 before their first loss. This kid in Montreal, Davis Alexander, who really yet is not a household name in his own house, is already off to the greatest Alouette start in history. Do I need to go through some of the quarterbacks they've had? And if they win, he's in the stratosphere of Bo Levi and Jeff Garcia. And then win after that, he's tying Danny McManus for the greatest start in CFL history. Bro, it's must-see TV.
It is. It really is. And, you know, Trey Ford on the other side was really good. I know he lost the Canadian quarterback duel to Nathan Rourke back in week 1, but he was good too. It's going to be a really, really good week. And, you know, curious about all these games. I voted for Winnipeg, BC. I think it's going to be a heck of a game. I think those are two teams that we expect to be in the upper echelon of the Canadian Football League, but the game on Thursday will be good. Montreal, I've got them as the best team in the Canadian Football League right now, and why wouldn't you? Yeah, it's a great story. Really is.
902-518-3033 is the Western Dodge text line. We got a lot of texts coming in there. We've gone through Stanley Cup Final already for those that have joined us late. Brushed on the NBA Finals resuming Thursday. I probably won't watch it. No, I won't, because I'll be touching down in Toronto. Let's spend a little time on this. I've got baseball here tonight. The Regina Red Sox are at the Moose Jaw Millers, biggest rivalry in our worlds. I'll be broadcasting that game tonight. Tomorrow, going for coffee at Tim Hortons with Brent from Wellington, Florida. He's flying here right now, Darren, with his son RJ. They're going on a big fishing trip in northern Saskatchewan. I said, listen, I can get a coffee with you before I jump on the plane to fly to Toronto for our big show Friday at Joe Dogs in Burlington, Ontario. Darren Burns is putting it on. We'll explain far more of it on Friday during the show, but we're going to have Tony Gabriel there, Leo Ezrins, Ticats Grey Cup winning linebacker, former CFL alumni. So you know Leo well, Darren. A lot of CFL greats Friday at Joe Dogs in Burlington. And then that night is Argos Riders, and I'm like, why would we not go to that game? So you're going to – I've not yet heard back from the Argos, by the way. The Argos could throw a wrinkle into all of this by not giving you and I media passes to go to the game. Let's put this all on the Toronto Argonauts. Because, the devil on my shoulder is saying, well, Rod, you could be like everybody else and buy a ticket. I'm waiting to hear. I'm not saying producer Corey's like, they didn't give you passes. I just wrote them this morning. So I'll give them what do I give them, 24 hours? I don't know.
Yeah.
But as our good friend Les Lazarek will say, as Les Lazarek would say, the voice of the Saskatoon Blades and the Saskatoon Berries, do you pay to go to work? It's like the best comeback I've ever heard in my life for people that bitch about the media. Well, you don't pay. Do you pay to go to work? Have you ever heard Les say that?
I haven't heard him say that, but I can totally hear him saying that. It sounds like something he would say and have ready to roll. Look, and I look like that game being at 7:30 as well. That really helps us out. That helps us out a lot. It'll be really good. So if it works out, the weather this week, I mean, it's pouring rain right now, but it's 28 degrees. The weather this week is supposed to be really warm. It would be a great time, man. I'd love to go down there with you, check it out. That's right on the doorsteps of the Game Plus studios, the control room, right down there in the Liberty Village exhibition area. Unbelievable.
Weston Walls.
You've been begging me to come back to Florida. You got to. I know you're going to be in Burlington with other things, but you got to come spend a week with me and just hang out in Toronto for a week.
You've offered that many times, and I should do that. Yeah. Kirk from Toronto writes in, where we're very big in Toronto. Kirk says, it's mid-June, and thank God hockey's over. Now football and baseball for the rest of the summer and fall. Gary in Winnipeg says, nice haircut. And he also says, put your glasses on, Rod. Why are you telling me what to do, Gary? But I'll take the compliment. I went and got my haircut from my gal, Truk, a nice young Vietnamese lady. I think you know Jem and Truk, two Vietnamese sisters. She goes, oh, your wife coming up this summer? I said, yep, she'll be here. She hot. Yes, she is. Freddie writes in from Winnipeg. He says, g'day, boys. Two things. I feel bad for the Bruins fan base regarding Marchand. And is Daring having any sweet potatoes today? Excellent moose droppings column today.
Somebody's been reading my column.
It's at rodpeterson.com right now. Moose's award-winning column. Well, we have less than a minute before we break. Tell them about your CFL notes, since we're in a CFL segment right now. You have one team clearly above the rest as the best team in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, the Montreal Alouettes. I didn't write this, and I probably should have. But, it's pretty easy to do the top four in the CFL right now. They're all four undefeated teams, with Winnipeg or with Montreal leading the way, Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, and Calgary in that order. But that's not always the case. Sometimes the power rankings are not standings, but that's my power four, we're going to call it. And my game of the week is BC home to Winnipeg.
Right. So go to rodpeterson.com right now, and you can read the ever-popular award-winning Moose Droppings column. More with us right after this here on Game Plus.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Honky Tonk legend Mark Chestnut. Celebrating 35 years of music. Joined by special guest Aaron Goodvin. June 28th at Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th. With special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit shaniatwain.com.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. And just like that, how about that? We are back on the air for the final segment with Moose today. My friend Navy Dawn has written in from Ottawa, and how about this? He writes in and says, "You've convinced me to hop on the train to see the game in the big smoke coming down from Ottawa." Well, you're welcome, CFL. I feel like it wasn't real hard to twist Don's arm to go to the game Friday night. But and by the way, I'm not even totally sure I'm going to be there yet. But that's where I want to be. Just a few things have to happen. Darren, I got a question for you. I got to stay out of the comments here because they're great, but it's just you and me. We don't have a lot of time left here. Matthew Tkachuk, after the game last night, said, "We're now a dynasty. 3 straight cup finals." I'm like, I like you, Matthew. We're Facebook friends, and I've been around him a lot. I like him a lot. You're not a dynasty. Sorry. And it's on our Instagram. I put a poll up on our Instagram story at The Rod Pedersen Show. Dynasty, yes or no? 53% say no. And before I go further out on that limb, well, maybe you think they are. What would you say?
It's not an easy answer, but I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say that they are.
Ooh.
Because, look, I'm in my 30s. Montreal Canadiens dynasties, the Oilers, the Islanders, there's lots of dynasties. You go back into the black and white era, the Leafs probably were one, et cetera, et cetera. But that's not happening in a salary cap world, in a world where we have so much player turnover and all the rest, and parity is way higher than it's ever been. Maybe we got to call it a modern day dynasty, because I think those days of, 4, 5, 6 Stanley Cups in a row or championships in a row are over. This is as close to it as you're going to get. Been to 3 cups. The fact that I think what helps their case is that they are getting better. They're getting better. So they lose and then win. I think they're there. I don't know that it's like clear cut, but yeah, it's as close to modern day dynasty. I mean, I put, again, there may be mini dynasty, Tampa in that situation, what LA, Chicago, Pittsburgh did over the last 15, 20 years. Those were all kind of little dynasties where you're good consistently for a number of years.
You know, people don't know this. I'm writing down your quote. It's a modern era dynasty. You have no clue what the topics I'm going to throw at you are because I don't know what they are. So how could you, right? And you just have to sit there and try and you foul some
Hit the
off,
curve,
some
baby.
you hit right on the screws, right? And this was one. For me, it's not a dynasty. You might have convinced me otherwise, however. But even Steven Stamkos, when the Lightning won 2 in a row, I think we all remember, he's like, one more and we got a dynasty. That's from Stamkos. So I don't think Matthew Tkachuk can self-proclaim that it's a dynasty as much as he would like to convince us of that. You know, he wasn't talking about the 1980s TV drama starring John Forsythe and Linda Evans, which you would not know what that is. It was called Dynasty, but he might as well have been. It's not a dynasty. Is it tougher now to win a Stanley Cup than when the Canadians won their 5 in a row or the Islanders won 4 in a row? Absolutely, because there's way more teams. I'm not sure we've come that far yet, though. You've given me something to think about this modern era dynasty thing. Maybe that's a thing. I just feel that if you put an asterisk beside anything in the record book, it automatically doesn't count. What do you think?
Yeah,
I know
I
can see in your eyes. You're
right.
racing.
But like,
yeah.
When I think about dynasties, it's like you go back to eras, and if you remember one team standing above the rest, you know, for multiple years, it's like, oh, that was the team of the era, and of this period in time, it's the Florida Panthers. You know, go back, it was Pittsburgh and it was LA and Chicago, and kind of, I think Chicago, Pittsburgh, LA kind of overlapped each other. But when we go back, like you're coming here and you're talking about going, here's where my mind went. You're coming here talking about going to the Argos game. And I'm like, oh, you might see Craig Campbell there because I saw him on TV last night. And then I went to the Hall of Fame. And now I'm picturing myself, you, me, Craig Campbell, walking through the Hall of Fame and looking at the walls. And we look at these eras. And right now in this period, when people look at the eras in the Hall of Fame 20 years from now, they're going to look at the Florida Panthers.
Okay.
And so
you've completely now talked me out of it, and I'll tell you why. Scott in Vancouver writes in, he says, the Penguins in the early 90s, do people consider that to be a dynasty? Cups in 91, 92? No, but we've just explained that the league's got way more teams now. But here's the thing. Matthew tripped himself up, Tkachuk in the quote, because he said three straight trips to the finals. You know, we're a dynasty. Dynasties are built on winning. So it's like Bomber for fans that are saying, we've been in 5 straight Grey Cups. Even Milt, the great Milt Stiegel, saying that's a dynasty. No, it's not. You've lost the last 3. Where the hell do you get a what? No. If the Panthers had won 3 in a row, they've been there 3 straight. They didn't win 3 straight. No, I'm off the modern dynasty thing. I'm off it.
You're right. Winning is the thing, but I feel like winning has to be like the exclamation point on it. So like with Winnipeg and the Blue Bombers, the 5 straight Grey Cups is cool, but you're right. Losing the last 3, you don't think of them as that. But if they win the Grey Cup this year, dynasty's back on, because it's like you've been to these Grey Cups, you won a couple, you have to finish with a win. And why I think like the Panthers have a better shot at it or more conversation is they've won the last 2. They didn't win and then lose. They're rising. They lost, got there, and they just keep winning. So they're getting better.
Yes. This is like the greatest sports topic we've ever had on this show. And I've gone back and forth 3 times in this little conversation that we've had. Now, back to where you live influencing your opinion. Tony in Cochrane, Alberta, whom I love, but he writes in, he goes, same as the Eskimos being a dynasty in a 9-team league. Yeah, they won 5 in a row in a 9-team league. That's not their fault. All of the Leafs Cups came in the original 6 era, or 67. Was that 1 year into expansion? That's not the Leafs' fault. It's not the Eskimos' fault that they won 5 in a row. That is a dynasty. Okay? And the comments from the viewers are outstanding. Carlos in Indianapolis says, ask the 90s Bills if they were a dynasty. Right? Reg Dunlop writes it and says, a losing dynasty. Rich in Edmonton says, I've seen my team lift 5 cups. Jets 2.0 fans celebrate a first-round win. That's different, and that's also not Winnipeg's fault. They've never won, so they don't know how to act, and that's real talk, that's truth. I'm not meaning to piss anybody off, but until you've won, you don't know. Or Darren being a Leaf fan, they haven't lived one in your lifetime, so they basically have never won because you've never seen it. You've never seen it.
No, never seen it. And I had, again, Oiler fans I'm watching the game with last night, and they said, this is the worst. I'd rather be waterboarded than sit here and watch the end of this hockey game 2 years in a row to get right to the brink and lose. That is like soul crushing, rip your heart out stuff. And the guy beside him says, I'm a Leafs fan. I've never even seen my team play in the Cup Finals. So just be happy that you got these 2 wonderful springs back to back. Perspective and all the rest.
The only thing that annoys me in life, as you know, is people being annoyed. Because Craig Simpson the other night, when the Oilers were getting motorboated in Game 3, he's like, this game can't end fast enough. There was still 6 minutes to go. This is just horrible. Well, he's the Oiler guy, so it didn't really bother me, but there's so many Panthers fans that are upset about pro-Oiler coverage on both networks, and I'm like, legitimately, who cares? I'll give Craig Simpson a pass because he's an Oiler. And I'll give Sportsnet announcers a pass that they want the Oilers to win because they're Canadian. That doesn't bother me, but oh my God, does it piss people off, Darren? Oh, have you noticed?
You have to speak to your audience. And, when you're on Sportsnet, most of your audience is Canadian. So you're going to, have a Canadian angle and all the rest. Yes, other people are watching it, but that's what you need to do. The storylines and all the rest are slanted. I got no problem.
TNT's got Wayne Gretzky on the panel, so of course he's going to want the Oilers. It's Wayne Gretzky. Okay, Moose, you will be in this chair tomorrow hosting the show, so I know you got a lot to get ready for. So thank you for that.
A lot of football talk tomorrow.
Okay, coming back, we've got a sports update and viewer takeover the rest of the way. Thanks, Moose. And in hour 2, sweet Annie O.D. from the Cherry Bomb podcast out of Southern California. Be right back after this.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902 518 3033.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th. With special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit ShaniaTwain.com.
Honky Tonk legend Mark Chestnut. Celebrating 35 years of music. Joined by special guest Aaron Goodvin. June 28th at Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
Welcome back, everybody, on this Wednesday, June the 18th, 2025. It is the first day of summer as far as many of us are concerned, but people still really want to talk about hockey. There are other sports going on, by the way, and I could sit here and might for the next 40 minutes just addressing you people, the viewers. And I might have to do that later on this afternoon when I do the Cats and Bolts podcast at 3:30 p.m. live Eastern. It's our Florida Panthers Tampa Bay Lightning show that we do, Florida's most popular hockey show, because I'm assuming my co-host Serena will be on the air with me then. But last year she was devastated, I'm not going to lie, by her Oilers losing in Game 7 to the Panthers and did not want to come on. Fortunately, Panthers great and broadcaster Bill Lindsay filled in, but Billy's a little busy today. It might just be me at 3:35 p.m. Eastern answering viewer questions, and that would be fine too, because people really seem to like that, and it doesn't scare me at all to do that. But let me clean out the messages here from the viewers. We got some great stuff. Greg in Calgary writes in on the Western Dodge text line. 902-518-3033 is the way to reach us. He says the Panthers have to keep Sam Bennett, but I think they will lose Brad Marchand because his career is winding down, so he wants the best offer. Well, love you, but Brad Marchand will make that decision. What I love about Toronto, and I know that we air out of Toronto, and maybe I can get down to the Game Plus studios Friday afternoon. That would be pretty cool. Time-wise, I'd be tough, but would you guys open the doors on the weekend for me? That would help us all out. They say the Leafs want Brad Marchand. Well, we want him, so we should get him, right? Everybody wants to play for the Leafs. Mitch Marner doesn't. And last night, Bill Zito said on the postgame that he thinks there's a way to keep them all. And he's not going to say how, but if you watch the Cats and Bolts podcast, we discussed that last week, and I said, where there's a will, there's a way. Kirk in Toronto writes in, and he says, if you're at the Argos game Friday night, where can fans of the RP show meet you? Hang on. We don't even know that we're going yet. So, patience. Darcy in Grand Prairie, Alberta writes in, and he says, future poll question. Dallas versus Dynasty. J.R. Ewing all the way for me. Producer Corey probably has no idea what that even is because he informed us yesterday that he was born in 1985. I am old enough to answer all of your questions today. The Leafs have not won a Stanley Cup in my lifetime, but I am old enough to remember 80s TV series that you young people are not. So Dallas, all day, twice on Sundays. Hello, J.R. Ewing. Who shot J.R.? All of that. Victoria Principal, Patrick Duffy. Dynasty, well, Dynasty did give us Heather Locklear. Hang on now. I got to think about this a little more. But the poll question today. So producer Corey's saying that he is aware of them because they ran on reruns well into the 90s. So he's aware of the TV shows. There were two different shows. Dynasty was a city show of a rich, snobby family, and Dallas was a country show of a rich, snobby family. So I was hosting a sports trip down to Dallas in 2012. And there's a lot of things to do in Dallas. Did you know that? And part of our gang went to South Fork, which was the Ewing Ranch. I didn't go. And for any of you that know me, I've been on multiple farms and ranches. I don't need to see that one. But a lot of them went. And the funny thing was, what did I do? We went to go see Dealey Plaza. We partied. That takes up a lot of your time. But the guys that went, it was a bunch of the farmers on my trip, went to the South Fork, and they reported to me. They said it's a lot smaller than you'd think. Most things on television are. Keep your jokes to yourself. Regarding Matthew Tkachuk's claim that they are a dynasty now, I guess you could call me the Panther guy because I live there, been covering them for 5 years now. But even I'm saying they're not a dynasty. And Rick in Martinsville, Sask writes in and he says, you win 3 in a row, it's a dynasty. Anything else is just making stuff up. That's Tkachuk, though. If you know him, he's going to try and sell you on something. That's him. And he probably 90% of him, maybe 95% believes that they are a dynasty, and the other 5 to 10% is going, yeah, no, you're not. Gary in Winnipeg writes in, he says, the Panthers are a dynasty in the first half of this decade. Still another 5 years to go to improve their record to finish the decade out. Signed, Gary in Winnipeg, who calls himself the old fart. Now, there's no time on dynasties, Gary. It's consecutive championships. Bingo. Because the Winnipeg Blue Bombers won 2 Grey Cups in a row and then appeared to the next 3 and lost them all, that doesn't make you a dynasty. And I would be willing to debate Milt Stegall on that anytime, anywhere. 3 in a row minimum makes you a dynasty. I think. What a topic, what a debate. A lot of fun. Reg Dunlop writes, then he says, you can sleep at the South Fork Ranch. It's like an Airbnb. No thanks. But thanks for the info. Carlos in Indianapolis says, it's what makes the RP show the RP show. Again, that's just me. That's not a South Fork. It's not their fault. I remember 4 years ago, I was back in Saskatchewan speaking at an event in Lampman with Stu Grimson. And as I was driving back out of there, my car hit a patch of ice, which I had planned on never having that happen again in my life. It was more slush than ice and went down into the ditch. And I don't need to tell you the whole story other than I called my brother to come get me. He's like, well, I could get you, but you're just a couple miles from Bill Ollie's farm. Why don't you call Bill Ollie? So I called Bill Ollie, and Bill Ollie says, well, I'm not home, but Beanie's right across. He's the next farm. Why don't you call Beanie? So I did. And he came and he pulled me out. It was the worst storm in October in Saskatchewan history. Closed the highway for 3 days. And as I'm shivering under the blankets at the farm where I was raised, which now my brother lives, I'm like, I didn't plan on ever doing this again. No, they don't have those blowing snowstorms in Dallas, but they do have those rickety old farmhouses. Nothing against it. Just not interested in paying for it. Rich in Edmonton writes in. Oh, hang on. No. I'm way behind what they're talking about in the comments here. Excuse me, my pen fell. Here is the sports update. The Florida Panthers are making parade plans today after repeating as Stanley Cup champions last night, led by Sam Reinhart's 4-goal performance. The Panthers polished off the Oilers 5-1 to capture the series in 6. I received my notification. The parade is Sunday, June 22nd, in case you want to go. Corey Perry of the Edmonton Oilers became the first player in NHL history to lose in the Stanley Cup Final 5 times in 6 years with 4 different teams, which I got a thought on that. But Perry was also with the Oilers last year, previously lost in 2022 with Tampa Bay, 2021 with Montreal, and 2020 with Dallas. Had the Oilers won, Perry would have broken the record for the longest gap between Cup championships. He won the Cup in 2007 with the Anaheim Ducks. Here's what I see a lot of on social media now, and it's primarily coming from young people, but it's like, what a loser. He lost 5 Stanley Cups. He won in 2007 with Anaheim, so I'll take any of that record because he won. And that's the one thing that the young people don't understand, and what hasn't changed, winning still matters. So Matthew Tkachuk can say they're a dynasty with 2 straight, but you're not a dynasty. It's 3 in a row minimum or more. Or, like, say, 4 championships in 5 or 6 years, or whatever the Kansas City Chiefs have done. They did the 3-peat, though, right? That's a dynasty. Tampa Bay, Matthew Tkachuk and the Panthers are not a dynasty, nor the Tampa Bay Lightnings, but even Steven Stamkos knew that. Winning matters. I know that's gotten lost on some people. The world ain't changing. Just so you know, you still need to win. The Chicks still go home with the champion. The Abbotsford Canucks are 2 victories away from hoisting the Calder Cup. Linus Karlsson scored 2 of his teams. The king bee gets the honey, as Brute Cologne used to say. Linus Karlsson scored 2 of his team's 5 third-period goals to beat the visiting Charlotte Checkers 6-1 in Game 3 of the best-of-7 AHL Championship. Checkers are the Panthers' top affiliate. Toronto Blue Jays will be aiming to make it 2 in a row over the visiting Arizona Diamondbacks tonight. The Blue Jays, who rallied with back-to-back homers in the 9th to knock off the D-backs 5-4, will face lefty Eduardo Rodriguez in tonight's second set of the team's 3-game series. The Yankees' offense is drifting toward uncharted territory, and not in a good way. The team tied a franchise record last night by getting shut out for the 3rd straight game. They went 0 for 10 with runners on base in a 4-0 loss to the visiting Angels. The Yankees have been blanked in 3 straight games in 3 consecutive times in their 123-year history, but only 3 times in the last 50 years. So, again, rush to judgment, as they say. The Jays Yankees, remember all the home runs? There were historic amount of home runs coming out of the opening weekend, and everybody wanted to buy their bats. Remember that? Aaron Judge was off to the best start ever, matching Babe Ruth. And now, it reminds me of the story, Maybe. Look it up. Popularized by Tom Brady. Scott in Vancouver says Chicago Blackhawks winning 3 cups in 5 years, dynasty. I'll go along with that, but what's the key? 3 cups. Jeremy in Winnipeg says Florida proved they were better than last year. Cap going up, they could run it back. For the Oilers, their stars need to battle through it. Crosby and Malkin did. We'll continue this all in Sweet Annie OD coming up in hour 2 right after this.
Honky Tonk legend Mark Chestnut, celebrating 35 years of music. Joined by special guest Aaron Goodvin. June 28th at Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th with special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit shaniatwain.com.
333 902 518 3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902 518 3033.
I'm Bridget Laquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult, because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
Text 902 518 3033 902 518 3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902 518 3033.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Welcome inside, everybody. Hour 2 of the RP show. And I told you if you joined us late, you missed it. But I said I can just sit here and answer your questions, and that's probably what I'm going to do for the next 15 minutes until we're joined by Sweet Annie O.D. from the Cherry Bomb Hockey Podcast out of Southern California. And I know it's summer, and I know the hockey season ended last night, but she can also talk baseball. She's really into the Dodgers, really into the Angels, and you don't get on this show unless you're good. And that's Sweet Annie O.D. She'll be joining us from Southern California. And I was telling our business manager, Joe, this morning that I got to give our past producer, Clark, credit for finding Sweet Annie, because years ago now on the RP show, I said, let's not get the same guys and gals that we see all the time on all the other TV channels. Dig in the corners and dig out some people from the obscure places, you know. And so that's how we came up with the Mike Benton's in Seattle with the Kraken, and Sweet Annie down there, and Brian Ray in Dallas with the Stars. And they've become staples and have really, really helped the show and stayed with us for all this time. So a war has erupted in the comments section, which is not what we planned at all. We don't like that. But we also can't control or change people. We don't try to do that either. So, has to do with the Oilers losing last night. Let's go through the quick six show topics again. Rich in Edmonton writes in, he says, again, very disappointing. That's Rich from Edmonton. But a fun ride the last couple of years. Other Canadian team fans haven't even come close. Yeah, it hurts. It hurts. For Oiler fans. Again, let's just go through what we've been talking about. Stanley Cup Finals, the big story. It's summer now. The hockey season's over. After today, we'll likely be moving on, but no promises. Florida beating Edmonton last night 5-1 to take it in 6. Who predicted that the Oilers would lose this series in 6, or the Panthers would win it, to be more kind? I did. So taking a big victory lap on that one. Because why? Because when I'm wrong, which happens almost as much as me being right, I get kicked in the ribs by the whole world. So I'm telling the world when I'm right. Point 2, the Blue Jays had a wild comeback win last night, 5-4 over the Arizona Diamondbacks at Rogers Center. They're going to try to run it back tonight in Game 2. Point 3, NBA Finals Thursday night. And in Canada, I don't think the ratings, despite the amount of Canadians that are in this final, led by Oklahoma City's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of Hamilton, I don't think it's going to rival CFL TV ratings. But we'll see, because point 4 of our Quick Six show topics, people love the Quick Six show horn. Point 4 is the Canadian Football League Week 3. It's why many of you have showed up here today, and I appreciate you for that. Thursday night kicks off. Well, our poll question, as it is every Wednesday, is what is Canada's game of the week in the Canadian Football League? We started that years ago. It hasn't really caught on with anybody other than us, but it still works. So Thursday, it's Montreal at Edmonton. Spoiler alert, it's a distant fourth in the poll. Montreal at Edmonton Thursday night. But I'm going to tell you why you should tune in. Friday night, Saskatchewan at Toronto, and Moose and I are hoping to be at that game. I'll explain that in a second. Sask at Toronto Friday night. And then a doubleheader on Saturday. It's the last Saturday doubleheader of the summer. Then in week 4, the league goes to the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday schedule, which I favor. I like it. Saturday doubleheader, Ottawa at Calgary, followed by Winnipeg at BC. News out of that one, our guy AJ Jakubic, the voice of the Red Blacks, reporting in Ottawa today that Dustin Crumb's taking first-team reps for the Red Blacks. Looks like their top guy, Drew Brown's still hurt. We've all got Calgary picked to win anyways. But the runaway winner of the EMJ marketing poll so far, game of the week, is Winnipeg at BC Saturday night. Nathan Rourke has never beaten Winnipeg. He's 0-5. We broached the subject on yesterday's show with Eddie Steele about, is Nathan Rourke of the Lions overrated? People didn't really want to touch that one. That was like Alexander Ovechkin on his stick. Too hot. I like Nathan Rourke, but can we just talk about the things and not have people get offended? He's 0-5 against the Bombers. And I know the narrative is that he's all that. I know that. TSN's trying to build him up, and that's great. We need to pump up our stars. But has the performance on the field matched the hype? Come on, you know it hasn't. So we'll see what happens Saturday night in BC. And then the Montreal at Edmonton game, I'm going to go back to the game notes here. I love the game notes too much. Makes me happy inside to read these things. I've been out of the league 7 years, and I still get these emails from the league office. Really appreciate that. Davis Alexander of the Montreal Alouettes, first-year starter, stands as the only quarterback in Montreal CFL history to start their career at 6-0. Look who they... Sam the Rifle Echeverry. I guess Anthony Calvillo did not start his career there, and that is what the caveat is here. Read the fine print. Start their career in Montreal at 6-0. I believe Sam the Rifle Echeverry, but that's the 50s, started his career there. AC did not. Started in Vegas, went to Hamilton, then Montreal. But there's been a lot of quarterbacks come through there. Anyways, the CFL record for best start held by our good friend Danny McManus, Florida State Seminole legend. Danny McManus started 8-0 in Winnipeg. And then at 7-0, second place in the record book, Bo Levi Mitchell and Jeff Garcia of the Horsemen. A win Thursday night for Davis Alexander with Montreal in Edmonton ties him with Bo Levi and Jeff Garcia. And then one more win after that ties him for the greatest start in CFL history. That's unbelievable stuff. That's the game you people voted as the least interesting. So I can find a reason for you can get interested in the Bantam Pee-wee Tiddlywinks game if you want. There's always a reason to watch. Thank you, Freddie from Winnipeg. And then we talked about, we didn't even get into the NFL yet, but there's nothing going on there, so that's fine. So one of the big topics here today that popped into my head just before Moose left was Matthew Tkachuk's comment after the game last night. And let me preface this by saying I love Matthew. Great kid. Matthew Tkachuk, no doubt. But he said after the game, you got to watch him. You got to pay it. You got to keep your eye on him at all times, Matthew Tkachuk. He'll try and pull something. And last night he did by saying that we're a dynasty now. 3 straight cups, finals, appearances. We're a dynasty. Nah. As Lee Corso says on College Game Day, not so fast, my friend. And we've been debating that. What does it take to be classified as a dynasty? Sure, you're going to want to anoint yourself a dynasty if you can get away with it. But I think what we've centered on with all of our wonderful viewers through the opening hour was you got to win 3 championships. And they don't even have to be together. 3 in 5 years, 3 in even 10 years, like the Blackhawks. Theirs wasn't 10 full years, but you know what I'm saying. And then I said he might as well be talking about the television show dynasty because that has as much relevance as the Panthers having a dynasty today. If they win next year, yes. Or in 2 years, yes. And they're going to be good for a long time. There's a very good chance that they will be a dynasty, but they're not yet. Might as well talk about the television show dynasty. Linda Evans, John Forsythe, Heather Locklear versus Dallas. I rattled off their cast last hour. What do you like? Freddie in Winnipeg writes in and he says, Dallas was less appealing because Dynasty had the cat fight in the pool by Linda Evans and Joan Collins. He says, excuse me now. I have to go take a cold shower. See, when you name those names, I think of them now. That doesn't even make me need to have a cold shower. Greg in Calgary writes in. He says, the Oilers won 5 in 7 years. They were a dynasty. Ain't nobody doubting that. And 4 in 5, as we know. But so the key in this is 3 championships. And I go back to Tampa Bay, Steven Stamkos, greatest captain clearly they've ever had. I believe that. And they've had some good ones. But Stamkos, after they'd won 2, he goes, 1 more and we got a dynasty. Stammer knows. Here's Kachuk trying to feed you a line that they're a dynasty. No, they're not. Kirk in Toronto, you can always count on him for a few things. One being dragging politics into this. Hey, Rod, it took the finals, but the Carney curse finally caught up with the Oilers. Inviting and fawning over him at their practice did them in. He's hated in Alberta. Well, see, I don't like politics at all for my own reasons. And it's funny because people think I don't know politics. Oh, I was a card-carrying youth member of a political party. And the more that I saw, the less that I liked, and I got out of it fast. Sports, just as slimy and greasy, but at least I know what I'm dealing with. You know? But if I was running a sports team and a politician, I was going to say, save for the president or the prime minister asked to be part of what we're doing, I think I would say no. Unless I supported that guy or gal. Because I think about the Panthers. I mean, nobody's brought this up yet. Donald Trump and Vincent Viola, the owner of the Panthers, are good friends. And when he had him at the White House, Trump actually said that. My good friend, Vincent Viola. And I'm sitting there going, how does Vinny feel about that? Are they really good friends, or is that just Trump being Trump? And Vincent's not going to say no, that we're not. So, yeah, I don't like when the politics in that cross. And so Carney, the prime minister-elect, that was before, it had to be before the election. He was campaigning. So he was the sitting prime minister. Fill-in, the interim, wasn't even the prime minister. I would have said no, pound rocks. But that's just me. Jeremy in Winnipeg writes in. He says, so recent NHL dynasties are the Penguins and Blackhawks? Yeah. Absolutely, bro. 111 Eastern. Thank you, Carlos in Indianapolis, for pointing that out. Visualize a positive outcome. Stay positive. All I can ask you is to stay positive. I can also tell you that it works, but that's entirely up to you. Jeremy in Winnipeg writes in and says, so the Kansas City Chiefs are an empire. 7 straight AFC championship games, 5 Super Bowls, won 3. Nobody's saying they aren't. And that's also your team. Well, I know that. I know where you all are at, and I know who you all cheer for. I don't have a lot of talents, but that's one. Pretty good memory. Here's one. If you're bad at names, it's because you just don't care. Chad in Lethbridge writes in on the Western Dodge text line. Experience the Western Dodge difference. Local, reliable, and driven to find the perfect vehicle for you. It's interesting what Chad says here. I scanned it real fast before I read it, but I knew that he wouldn't swear. He says, pretty classless play and gesture by Evander Kane, taking a dirty shot, resulting in a misconduct, and then not coming out for the handshakes. Those are the 2 types of players Edmonton needs to get rid of. Compare the culture to the Panthers, giving all the players who had never touched the cup got to go first last night. there is sure a difference in winning culture. Oh, it ain't even close. And what I love is you've all been watching this show since I showed up in Florida in September of 2021. Joel Quenneville was the coach. It's first class all the way. I rued the day from an Oilers perspective that they signed Evander Kane, and I kind of feel like they had the last laugh because they have made it to back-to-back Stanley Cups with him. But I don't think I'd have him on my team. I don't think that I would. I don't think the San Jose Sharks would say that, and the Winnipeg Jets would say that too. That's just me. But I mean, when he slashed, it was Tkachuk, right, last night, he didn't know he was going to get 10. He didn't know he was going to get kicked out of the game. He could have very easily have got 2. He could have got 5. But I get what you're saying. He didn't come out for the handshake line, and that, if anybody, I mean, I don't know Evander Kane personally. I know the history, and from what I understand, that does not surprise me. Rich in Edmonton says, words of wisdom, Rod. Stay positive. To be perfectly honest with you, I didn't come up with it. I'm just passing it along. I got a lot of advisors and coaches that I look to, and that's what they always say, stay positive. Things are getting you down, just stay positive. What choice do you have? It feels better. Sweet Annie OD's coming up. Sweet Annie OD's coming up in the next segment from the Cherry Bomb Hockey Podcast. Just to preface you, is she logged in yet, producer Corey? Not yet? Okay, well, she will. I was going to tell her to get ready for some baseball. Jeff, the Stamps fan, writes in. He says, breaking news, Dustin Crum is taking first-team reps at running at Red Blacks practice. Yeah, we mentioned it about 10 minutes ago, bro. I'll handle the breaking news. Rich in Edmonton says, Kane was a non-factor other than in a negative way. That's always the tough one. Scott in Vancouver says, people remember the Bills losing 4 Super Bowls in that era, more than the Cowboys winning it back-to-back. I don't. Sorry. But I'm a Cowboys fan. 92, 93, 95. How about them Cowboys? Nope. We don't remember the Bills more than the Dallas Cowboys. Sorry. What else we got here? We're live, by the way, at the Golden Ticket Sports Center in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. Book your birthday party with us for a fun-filled celebration, packed with sports, games, and endless excitement. Visit GoldenTicketSportsCenter.com to reserve your spot today. We got a hockey shooting lanes over here, batting cages over there, a golf course out there, tennis courts over here, yoga studio up there, basketball and volleyball courts right here. This is the greatest place on earth, the Golden Ticket Sports Center here in Moose Jaw. Jeremy in Winnipeg writes in, he says, ha, 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 how about them Cowboys? Today is not the day. Today is not the day to go down that road. Wayne in BC says, Kane did take some stupid penalties in the series, which didn't help the Oilers. Sweetie Annie O'Day coming up right after this.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th with special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit ShaniaTwain.com.
Honky Tonk legend Mark Chestnut. Celebrating 35 years of music. Joined by special guest Aaron Goodvin. June 28th at Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
RP Show continues, brought to you in part by Heavy Gym. At Heavy Gym, we believe in pushing past limits, breaking barriers, and building strength both inside and out. Are you ready to transform your life? Check them out at heavygym.ca. Okay, Sweet Annie OD, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you. As you've learned, I'm relentless when it comes to getting guests on my show. And you know that we're going to talk Stanley. You know that we're going to talk Stanley Cup Final in a second. But I want to preface you on this. Would you be comfortable talking about Caitlin Clark at all? Knowing you would have some thoughts on what she's going through in the WNBA.
Can I be honest? I am not a basketball person whatsoever. But
then
if
fine.
It's more like culturally, I'm sorry. I can, but as far as basketball goes.
No. Well, she's just, listen, wise, she's getting the crap kicked out of her on a nightly basis. And I just wonder what your thoughts on that are. But if you don't have any, that's fine. That's why I asked first. I didn't want to catch you. Because I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down the Ohtani, Dodgers, Angels road because I know you do baseball. I follow your stuff. But let's start with hockey. That is your wheelhouse. How would you characterize this Stanley Cup Final? Maybe on a scale of 1 to 10 from the ones that you've seen. Where would you put it?
Oof. It's funny, when the series started, I thought it was going to be one of the best Cup Finals we've seen in at least a decade, especially after, overtime thrillers back to back. Near the end, though, it was a little bit of a, blowout games to close it out. So I'll put it at a 6 or 7. It's still.
I know.
It's and I know you're probably torn. You're Canadian, but you have roots in Florida too. Like, how do you choose who to root for in these? I mean, I know you obviously have a Panthers podcast, but how do you choose who to root for in this situation?
You say I'd have been happy for both. That's what it was,
Sure.
and I mean it. But because I wasn't cheering for both, I accurately nailed Panthers in 6 because I didn't have a rooting interest, and I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, because Serena says to me, "Oh, you don't cheer for anybody. How do you not do that?" I'm like, "Well, I just don't," and I'm actually happy that I don't. But you're right.
Sorry, no biases. You don't have any biases, any favoritism clouding you obviously have your soft spots for players, but you have a clear vision of the matchup in front of you.
As I sit here wearing a Flames jacket, which reminds me, like Kachuk saying after the game last night, we're a dynasty. I don't know if you saw that interview. I think it might have been on Canadian television that he said that we're a dynasty now. And I'm like, oh, you're not. Although, what do you What? Yeah, okay. Can you address that?
Going back to back is not a dynasty. For me, I hold the word dynasty. I just think we can't just throw that word around after, especially after a back to back. But we can't throw it around like it means nothing. I didn't like it when the Blackhawks used it when they won 3 cups in what was that 5-6 seasons. To me, listen, if of anything of recent, I would say, okay, you can maybe make an argument for the Blackhawks just because they had just that era of dominance. But to me, I'm going to say at least 3 cups in I'll say 3 to 4 cups in like a very short amount of time, or even back to back to back. Like, I just feel like the word dynasty needs to be reserved for the organizations and the eras of these teams that are just pure dominance. And that's why, like, you look at the Penguins with Sid, Malkin, Letang. I wouldn't call them a dynasty. Yeah, the core accomplished 3 Stanley Cups with that core is pretty remarkable. But they went from 2009 and then didn't even make the Eastern Conference. Just disappointing playoff runs up until they went back to back in 2016, 2017. That's not a dynasty to me, because if that's the case, you can make an argument for a lot of teams that they're dynasties. So could the Panthers be a dynasty? Absolutely. If they keep running it back, they still have this era of dominance for sure. I mean, if Sam Bennett, which I have no doubt Sam Bennett's re-signing in Florida. I don't know if you were ever going to ask that, but everyone talking about, oh, where's Bennett going to sign in free agency? First time a Conn Smythe winner is hitting the free agent market. He's staying in Florida. So if they run it back, they absolutely could be a dynasty. See it happening, but just after going back to back, too early.
Well, I saw somewhere there are certain accounts that I can trust for info, and they said that Sam Bennett has apparently said somewhere, maybe it was privately, but it was reported that he had said he didn't want to leave Florida. I don't think he wants to leave Florida. I know he loves it there. They love him. Well, that's the greatest place in the world. But the other thing is, we all have our insiders that we follow. Like I say, I believe yours is not Frank Saravelli. What's the history with you and the baby-faced assassin? Because I've seen you take some runs at Frank.
I had to eat my words when he reported the Chris Kreider trade correctly. But my only issue with him, and I don't know him personally. I'm sure off the hockey airwaves, he's probably a great guy, but I just believe his reporting, especially regards to the Anaheim Ducks, it's not accurate. There's no sources around with the John Gibson whole nonsense with the I will never play another game for the Anaheim Ducks, and then constantly beating the drum that Trevor Zegras is on the trading block when, 2025, 3 years later, he's still in Orange County. And then leaking the expansion draft for the Seattle Kraken back in, what was that, 2021, when that expansion draft was happening, which that's crazy to me that was 4 years ago now. Yeah. But I don't know. I get it. I understand he has a job to do, and when he hears things, he's got to report them. And I just feel like amongst insiders, there's this rush to be first rather than be accurate sometimes. And I feel like I rather trust the insiders that care more about being right and their sources rather than saying, oh, you heard this might have been. Like Andy Strickland yesterday saying that Troy Terry was on the trading block, and immediately, I guess a Ducks rep confirmed, like, yeah, that's not happening. So now it's that time of year now. You hear the rumor mill, obviously, especially with all the Mitch Marner talk and things like mock trades are happening. Teams are going back and forth leading up to the draft. Like, things are going to get thrown out there, but accuracy, quality over quantity is what I say.
Good for you for saying that. By the way, Kevin writes in and he says, I can't see Bennett leaving Florida unless they lowball him big time. Won't happen. Jeremy in Winnipeg writes in, he says, depends what kind of person you are, winning or money. Rich in Edmonton, dude, you're leaving the show because of what people are saying in the chat section, and you're putting that on me. Let's check ourselves. You're upset the Oilers lost, bro. Don't get it twisted here. Don't point at me. But, it's time. I'll say this on the Bennett thing and all of this. Frank's not in Anaheim. You're in the area. I'm in South Florida. When they handed out the Stanley Cup rings in September, the Panthers, Vincent Viola, the owner, handed Sam Bennett and said, you are the soul of the franchise. The moment I heard that, Annie, I'm like, he's not going anywhere. Probably ever. But you wouldn't know that unless you were right in the market, right? That's how you know the things with the Ducks that Frank couldn't possibly sitting in Pennsylvania. That's a tough job.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, good. Okay, so to the Anaheim Rangers pipeline, what's going on with the trades there?
I was saying, it's like Tampa Bay from 10 years ago, where they were sending all the Rangers to South there, which, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Pat Verbeek maybe he had started working in that front office. I'm not sure the timing exactly there, but I know he was working there under Steve UI. So I was like, I wonder if maybe that's something we carry over from there. But it's interesting because when the Rangers earlier this year, they said, hey, our guys are available, which, we won't dig into the mess that is the New York Rangers. But I, for one, have beef with Chris Kreider. I'm a Carey Price fan, and that play in the 2014 Eastern Conference Finals still tugs at my heartstrings. I know he was tripped, okay? He's still a part of it, though. And for years, I held that resentment over him where I'm like, I cannot root for this man. But meanwhile, he seems like a great guy from what I've seen. But as far as the addition to the Ducks, the Ducks have the cap space to spend. So, what is it, $6.5 million he's on for the next 2 years? Won't be, especially with the cap rising the way it is. I'm not too concerned about that. But with the Ducks' absolutely abysmal power play, anything to improve it, honestly. And that net front presence, obviously, and the fact that insane stat on power play goals that he has, I'm fine with it. The fact that also he knows, obviously being a former Ranger, Jacob Trouba, Ryan Strome, Frank Vetrano. So he's got friendly faces there. Sure, there's also an appeal to play for Joe Quenneville in Anaheim, even though now that they got Mike Sullivan in New York, that's not exactly chopped liver there. And it's also he and Trevor Zegras also have a great relationship. I guess they trained together in the offseason, and Zegras was saying that he's known Chris Kreider since he was 12 years old, which to me is crazy to think that you have a 12-year-old kid training with Chris Kreider would have been maybe still at BC when that was happening, or just barely into his NHL career. But, I kind of think about all the training camps I see, even in Southern California here for hockey. And you have NHL players coming home and training with kids that are playing AAA travel still. They just like their coaches. They like their trainers that they come train with in the summer. So, at this point, low risk, that didn't give too much up in the trade either. So we'll see how it plans out.
Tell me, please, and correct me if I'm going down the wrong path, but did the NHL on TNT send you a gift package or something like that prior to the playoffs?
I did. I got a swag box of there was mini sticks in there, which I haven't played mini sticks in years. A couple pint glasses, a T-shirt, and a fleece blanket. That's right. And it said Yoffs.
Well, I'll tell you what's cool about that. Yeah. Sorry, Corey. She was speaking. Go ahead, Annie.
No, it's okay. Funny, there was Yoffs all over it. And I, for one, have never called the Stanley Cup playoffs the Yoffs. I don't know if you have, but that's a new term to me. Yeah.
And won't.
You're like, we're not doing that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get the swag box, but I got invited on a pre-Stanley Cup Finals Zoom with Eddie Olczyk and Anson Carter, and it was the coolest thing ever because they're like everybody else on a Zoom. Eddie's got a ball cap on and his glasses with a bookshelf behind him. He's clearly in his den. I'm like, this is really cool. There's something about that NHL on TNT panel that it's just so much fun. I know, and I agree with those that say Shaq and Chuck are the best. They're the GOATs. They're the GOATs on the NBA.
There's only one Shaquille O'Neal.
There's only one. But as far as the NHL on TNT, they have so much fun, man. I can't imagine that anybody would have any problems with them. Other than Panthers fans were very upset that we're pro-Oiler. And I'm like, I just tune that stuff out. I don't notice it. Did you see a pro-Oiler bias to the NHL on TNT panel? I did not.
You got Wayne Gretzky on there. His pick was Oilers in 4, which I was like, really? Trying to speak it into existence, Wayne. The delusion. I respect trying to be delusional to will what you want into reality, but Come on, man. And you got Biz, who usually takes the Canadian side of things. I agree with you, though. It's a really fun and nice dynamic. They've really tried to bring the energy and the recipe they have for the NBA panel and move it over to hockey, but also not complete, because we're talking about two different sports, two different cultures here. I think they've done a really good job of having different voices and different perspectives on that panel, different senses of humor also, to make it really entertaining. I think honestly not to dock on ESPN here, but I think ESPN could take some notes on just the entertainment factor and chemistry and building a panel of people that are not only knowledgeable but also fun to listen to and engage in banter on social media too. Like, you don't see that with the ESPN crowd. You don't see people tweeting at people. I mean, obviously Biz has his work with Barstool and Spit and Chicklets and things like that, but constantly watching the panel and just tweeting at him and just engaging. They do such a good job with it. And I also think that their social media is also a big part of that. They've got the Bleacher Report partnership, which is really on top of posting clips, posting memes, interactive things like that, whereas ESPN, because it's such a huge corporation, they don't have that individualized attention. But no, I know people kind of dock on the fact that you need TNT or streaming and kind of how it's not exactly accessible for everybody, but I do really think TNT is nailing this partnership by far.
Oh yeah. See, isn't this discussion fun? And by the way, like, nobody at ESPN it doesn't look like any of them are having fun at all. But
No.
Messi and PK came a long way this year. They came a long way, right?
I
So
agree.
they're getting there.
It's-
But NHL on TNT are still the leaders in that. Jeremy in Winnipeg writes, and he says TNT has a good panel, but overall production, Sportsnet is the best. Yeah, but nobody's having fun on Sportsnet. Sorry, they're not. Anyway, sorry, Annie. What are you going to say?
No, you're good. It also kind of brings into, you constantly talk about, because you see it in, I think, every sport. You kind of say, all right, just because someone's a retired, not just because you used to play the game doesn't mean that you can broadcast it and cover it.
No.
And there's obviously that jump and adjustment and things. And I mean, poor PK, I say poor PK Subban lightly, but he's trying to bring the fun factor there. They're throwing him on First Take. They're trying to grow the game. I don't, some of the things he has said on that show, which you got Stephen A on there. I get the premise of First Take is not for intellectual discussion regarding sports. It's about headlines, hot takes, engagement, all that. But like you said, like, Messier's come a long way, but I don't know if it's just me, but the TNT guys, like, I could see them all being friends outside of the broadcast. I could see them all hanging out, doing something after the broadcast. Messier and PK, I bet, get in that broadcast studio and then go their separate ways, literally.
Right. But by the way, on the Wayne picking Edmonton to sweep, by the way, for me, I got one foot in both countries, and it's the greatest life ever to be in Canada in the summer where the weather is perfect, and then be in Florida in the winter. It doesn't get better, but I also get the climate of both places. Wayne, people in Canada did everything they could do to cancel Wayne Gretzky because of his association with Donald Trump. Like, I mean, everything they could do. And Wayne didn't deserve that. And so he literally was like, I'm picking the orders, just don't cancel me. That's his team, and he was out. But anyways, the reason I brought up the Caitlin Clark thing, and I'm wondering why, I just love our chats, by the way, Annie, is because do you feel like a fish out of water there in Southern California that you don't follow basketball? Because my friends in Florida are all college football crazy and NBA, and I'm like, I can't contribute a lot to this conversation, guys. I'm sorry. I'm a Canadian hockey guy, and I love the CFL, and it's just not what you guys are into. But you were raised there. What's it like for you there?
Fish out of water for my entire life, literally. And it's so funny though, because like, just being raised in a hockey family, and the Southern, like, I feel like hockey most places is the community is just very small. Everybody knows everybody. So that was just kind of the culture that I was used to growing up. The only time I really noticed it was going to high school. Obviously my friends, like, no one watches hockey. No one was paying attention to it, even with, you know, the Ducks winning the cup in 07 and then the Kings having their 2 cups in 2012 and 2014. You know, it kind of sparked a bit, but amongst people my age, like not really. You kind of saw it more in the grassroots and the young kids kind of getting in and starting hockey, which is, I mean, for me personally, that's one of my passions, is just kind of seeing the game grow, especially in the non-traditional markets. And that's why you're scrolling through social media and you're seeing, I mean, it's so fun to me to see kids in South Florida wearing Panthers jerseys, you know, having the little rinks set up in their living room, and they want to be Sasha Barkov. They want to be Matthew Tkachuk. They want to be Sam Reinhart. You know, it's just, it's cool to see, you know, kind of the game grow in environments where some people believe it doesn't belong. But yeah, it's, as far as fish out of water goes. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say I grew up liking the Lakers, obviously. Like, I was a kid in Southern California in the 90s and 2000s. Kobe, Shaq kind of ruled that era. But, you know, kind of the Lakers now, I'm not really that into.
They're telling me we got to go. We got to roll. Oh, we didn't even get to baseball. Next time. Thank you, Annie. Great. We got so sidetracked on the NHL on TNT, which was amazing. But thank you, Annie. Appreciate you. And we'll be right back with a sports update and viewer takeover right after this.
Honky Tonk legend Mark Chestnut, celebrating 35 years of music. Joined by special guest Aaron Goodvin. June 28th at Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center July 7th with special guest Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit shaniatwain.com.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
I'm Bridget Laquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Welcome back, everybody. The RP Show continues on this Wednesday, June 18th. And let me just remind you, if you missed it earlier or if you forgot, Moose will be in this chair tomorrow. And when I say this chair, I mean the host's chair, as I will be traveling to his town, Southern Ontario, for a big show Friday from Joe Dogs in Burlington, Ontario. Joe Dogs Sports Bar. It's going to be a big CFL show. And all I can tell you, because the details... the devil's in the details. We'll tell you more about it come Friday, because you watch here every day anyways. But some CFL icons led by Tony Gabriel will be on the air with us. And Darren Burns is the man bringing us down here, the first guy to play high-level football in 6 different decades. They got a big senior game Saturday there, which I will be broadcasting. I was just informed this morning. So, yeah, it's cool. I don't, frankly, know why they want me. I'm like, guys, there's 1,000 guys could call a football game down there, but they've invited the RP Show, and it makes me real happy to be doing a show from a Southern Ontario sports bar. It's a pretty big deal for us. So, anyways, in and out, and listen, as you know, we talk more and more CFL football as the week goes along. It's now officially summer because hockey's over, but it is still Canada, by the way. And let me just say, you know that I've just got a different perspective. I know how people think in Canada. I know how people think in Saskatchewan. I know how people think in urban Saskatchewan, rural Saskatchewan. I know how they think in America. I know how they think in Florida. It's a wonderful perspective. But I can't. The one thing is everybody's fighting. Everybody's annoyed. It just happened in our damn YouTube chat comment. I'm like, come on, people. Could we, what? Please get a hold of yourselves. And the other thing on all that is, this stupid vaccination policy thing. Do you understand it's 2025? I'm just putting that out there because in rodpedersen.com, twice voted Canada's sports blog of the year, there's like I wrote in my commentary on Tuesday there, which you can always go to rodpedersen.com and get the best stuff if you just can't get enough here. I said, listen, if you're mad at the Riders and you're staying away from CFL games in Saskatchewan because they brought in a vaccination policy in 2021, 5 seasons ago, that's why you're not going? It wasn't even their choice. They were the last team in the CFL to finally relent and say, okay, uncle, we'll bring in this policy because they didn't want to. And you're staying away because you're mad at the team? So anyways, I said that. You got it wrong, just so you know. Is that why you're staying away? Because of a vaccination policy from 4 years ago that wasn't even their policy. The government made them do it. Some guy writes in and goes, well, maybe the government made them do it, but the Riders didn't have to go along. You know what? You win. You win. Stay away. Don't go to the games. That's the thing that is the mind screw when you're dealing with people like that. The Jedi mind screw. You know what? You win. Stay away from the games. I don't really give a shit. Rob writes in on the Western Dodge text line, 902-518-3033. He says, I was driving earlier, so I didn't have a chance to text in. Poor Leafs fans, the last time they won the Cup, my dad was in grade 12, and like his grad photo at the time, it was in black and white. Was also the last year of the original 6, and they haven't been back since. As a Bruins fan, happy to see Marchand raise the cup, but it does sting. Not as much as when Ray Bork did it with Colorado. Spotlight will be on the Elks now in Edmonton. Hopefully they can win their home opener tomorrow night, or it will be an even harder week in the City of Champions. Well, I don't think they're going to win. This is going to be a long year for Edmonton. I don't understand what people don't see, but that's okay. They've scorched the earth in Edmonton again. You got a new coach, a new-ish GM, a new president, and a first-year starting quarterback. Why do you think that you're going to be in the toughest division in pro football, even in the conversation to make the playoffs, let alone host a playoff game? Back to what I said earlier with Sweet Annie. I don't have an allegiance in the NHL, and I don't have an allegiance in the CFL, and it's a gift. It's not a burden. I can sit back and look at everything very non-biased. and pick the winners and look at correctly and look at things, because there's no bias in here and there's no bias in here. So I am very impressed, though, that Bruins fans are so, supportive of Brad Marchand winning a Stanley Cup with a new team. You got two choices: be bitter or be better. And they're applauding a guy that did so much for the Bruins franchise. They know he's a great guy. It's a hell of a story. Overtime is next. We'll be right back here on the Game Plus Television Network, streaming and found on all major podcast platforms.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult, because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Shania Twain.
Let's go, girls.
Live in Moose Jaw. Shania Twain. One incredible show. Live at Temple Garden Center, July 7th. With special guest, Lindsay L. Get tickets Friday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at the Temple Garden Center's box office or sasktix.ca. For more, visit ShaniaTwain.com.
Honky Tonk legend Mark Chestnut. Celebrating 35 years of music. Joined by special guest Aaron Goodvin. June 28th at Temple Garden Center. Tickets on sale now at Temple Garden Center box office or online at sasktix.ca.
Welcome back, everybody, for Overtime. I tell you what, as the summer moves along now, and it's now officially summer with hockey season over, we can all make some plans, right? July 29th in Okotoks, Alberta, is the Western Canadian Scouting Foundation Hall of Fame induction. My dad's going into the Hall of Fame posthumously, and I will be out there graciously taking that in. and I'm going to be dropping by Overtime Hockey Lanes. I'm thinking I might go out a day early, maybe stay a couple days, and maybe do a show from the Okotoks rink. But I was just waiting. Well, I got to get to Toronto this week and do a show from Joe Dogs Friday and broadcast a football. So just one day at a time, right? That's all. And so reason I'm pointing that out is a lot of our Alberta viewers have said, Roddy, you coming out here? And I'll get to it, just making plans on things as we move along. Shoot, maybe we could do a show from Overtime Hockey Lanes. Wouldn't that be a trip? That would be great. That just popped into my head. So, yeah, we're getting there. One day at a time. Overtime Hockey Lanes. There is no off-season there. They're at 28th Street Northeast, Calgary. Check out their summer camps for the kids. OvertimeHL.ca is their website, or check out their social media. They're on top of it there, as always. Tony from Cochrane. I see there's a big fight. I wish you guys, I pray for you all. I pray for you all. Tony from Cochrane, Alberta says, there ain't no cure for the summertime blues except the Blue Jays and CFL. I know you're just quoting a song by Alan Jackson because you love summer. You're out camping. I wish I could go camping. Never get a day off. Bill writes in from Tirana. He says, he's in Regina, originally from Whitby, right, Bill? He says, have a great trip to the GTA. I hope you and Moose can take in the tailgate. The host group are terrific. They're the same bunch that travels to the home and away Argo games and always love coming to Regina. Sometimes one day at a time gets shortened to one moment at a time. And that's where we're at right now. So we'll worry about Friday, but I do appreciate the invite. Sports update, Sam Reinhart of North Vancouver scored 4 goals. Netminder Sergei Bobrovsky made 28 saves, and the Florida Panthers repeated as Stanley Cup champions with a 5-1 win in Game 6 over the visiting Edmonton Oilers. Sam Bennett of Holland Landing, Ontario, received the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP. The Panthers beat the Oilers in 7 games in last year's final, in case you didn't know. Did you see the interview with Bob after the game? He thanked God for everything that he has and everything that he doesn't have. Read that again. The Toronto Blue Jays snapped their 3-game losing streak with a dramatic comeback in the 9th inning. Last night, Bo Bichette hit a game-tying solo home run, and teammate Addison Barger followed it up with a no-doubt blast that gave the Blue Jays a 5-4 victory over the visiting Arizona Diamondbacks. They'll try to do it again tonight at Rogers Center. And then this. Tony, I hope you're still watching. And I'm not sure if you follow women's hoops, but Caitlin Clark. That's what my friend Chris from the Bronx calls her, and that echoes in my. Everybody else from outside New York calls her Caitlin Clark. But if you're from the Northeast, it's Caitlin Clark. Had 20 points, 6 assists, and 4 3-pointers, and the Indiana Fever beat the visiting Connecticut Sun 88-71 in a physical WNBA contest Tuesday night that included 3 late ejections. Connecticut guard J.C. Sheldon, ejected in the final minute, was also the center of another official review in the third quarter after she poked Clark in the eye, and then Marina Mabry came in late to shove Clark to the floor. That whole sequence of events happened within seconds if you saw it. And if anybody cares, I'm winding the show up on this because for the love of Pete, we don't talk hoops on this show, and we dang sure don't talk women's basketball, but this has become a societal issue. And I don't know, can you not all see it as clear as day? I can. And I understand in America they're making it about race, which everything's about race in America. That's just the way that it is. But I will say this. What's Caitlin Clark ever done to anyone other than be her best self? We've been following her since Iowa and her record-setting NCAA career there, all-time women's scoring leader right at Iowa, and then into the WNBA, and they've just been kicking the crap out of her. And I can't remember who I was standing beside looking at these highlights, and they said, that league, they're just beating the hell out of her. And I'm like, what exactly did she do to anybody? She's being picked on because she brings out the worst in people. by just being the best of herself. And there ain't nothing she can do about that. Shalom. Troy in Toronto writes in, he says, God grant me the serenity. Kinda chat today, he says. Colt in San Diego writes in, and he says, Sweet Annie is the best. She's from my city of San Diego. He says the PWHL and NWSL are only the women's sports leagues I watch. Yeah, I don't really watch them at all. I'm not interested. There's a lot of other things on. 902-518-3033. And I'm not talking about this because it's all over the highlights. When it happens in the States, in those leagues, and it ends up on TSN, then you know it's usually bad. And that's what's going on with Kate and Clark. Tony says, still here, Rod. And it was Eddie Cochran who sang Summertime Blues in the 60s. LO. Yeah, I'm not a music guy. Or if, I am a former DJ. But if it's not a country song from the 70s, 80s, or 90s, I don't know it. Sorry. Rich in Edmonton says, good luck with Serena today. Rod can't be a happy camper. Well, I'm assuming she's going to be on the air with me in about 90 minutes' time. I don't know. What a time to be alive. What a way to live. So again, Moose will be in here tomorrow. Daniela Ponticelli will be co-hosting. And I'll see you Friday from Joe Dogs in Burlington.
Now I'm the whore and the pimp. That's where the money is.
How about that?